Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙤. This is episode 399 of Daily Global Insights, and we have a lot of breaking items for you. And first, let's welcome our co-host Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and good morning and good evening to everybody, and wonderful Christmas Eve weekend. We are coming in live.
Sridharji, thank you, sir. And we are hearing an outbreak of COVID in China, and close to 30 million or 35 million cases every day, new cases every day. That's a lot, Sridharji. And we have been talking about how even simple things like paracetamol and other derivatives like Tylenol, all these things are flying off the shelves. They are being smuggled in from other countries. All sorts of things are happening. What is happening there, sir? Have international flights? I think there are no international flights out of China to US right now, isn't it?
I think that there's very limited or if not complete stoppage of international flights leaving China. Except, flights, if you consider Hong Kong to be outside China, which they don't. Other than that, I think there's very restricted. There's tremendous amount of controls that's been imposed. I think we are beginning to see first data breaking out of China. This is from other agencies. As you correctly pointed out, there has been apparently one day, China seems to have reported 38 million cases just in a single day. And totally around, in the last 20 days of December or so, I think there's more than 250 million people apparently infected with the coronavirus, which this is the new variant B.2.7. And the other thing that I also hear is that they have run out of medications and vaccines and challenged with hospital beds, and no one knows the magnitude of the situation and how the government is dealing with it. If 250 million is the number, that's roughly equal to quarter of all COVID reported cases in the world, which is around 1.1 billion as we speak right now.
That's a very big number, Sridharji. And like we said, we are a little concerned about it. But I think India has said that the vaccines that have been administered will be able to effectively address this. But we have to wait and see how this plays out. So the more important thing is China has still not asked West for help. And how long are they going to put this thing off? I would say realistically, this is 1 in 4 Chinese who is infected now. I mean, many of them may recover in 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is. But as it goes through, and we are just at the beginning of winter, it's going to get colder in many climates and many places in China. So this is going to have an amplified effect. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State of America, has been reaching out to them and saying that I think he's going to go there in January, right?
Well, that is, as things stand, this was planned during the post the Indonesian summit, the G20 summit. Now, whether that meeting will occur, given these present circumstances, we don't know. He has come out in the open and said, we do not want to see the repeat of what happened in February, March 2020. Please start sharing the data because it has consequences as people travel around the world. And the virus begins to spread. So this is his plea based on whatever intelligence and data that the United States is saying. So I don't know whether China is going to be willing to share data. On your question, I just don't believe that China would rather suffer rather than take any help from any other country, Shuji.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. The sensible thing would be for them to take the help of some other country. But anyway, they're different. Their thinking is different. Let's move on. Russia is now saying that it is going to also cut the output. And as a reflection of that, Brent crude has again touched $84 a barrel. Sridharji, OPEC is cutting, Russia is cutting, and Qatar has actually threatened Europe with natural gas sanctions, cutting off natural gas. Did you read that, sir? There is attempts to create a new crisis here.
Well, Qatar is, is mostly catering to the demands of Asia. If we covered
Oh,
this in
22-year-old agreement with China. 22-year-old agreement with China. Yeah.
exactly, and also other parts of Asia. So I think Qatar is, is demonstrating that, coinciding with the EU investigation of the FIFA scandal that is now rocking the EU Parliament, and they're raising the temperature, around the whatever weapon they have, which is energy, gas and oil. In case of Qatar, it is gas. I think the consequences of Russia is far more significant, both oil and gas. Europe is reliant on Russia. And they got a two-pronged issue. One is, we covered this again, the Nord Stream pipe has seen explosions, which supplies gas. So that there's been disruptions. And the price cap that has been introduced was effectively to curb more cash flow going into Russia to fund the war machine that has sustained Russian operations in Ukraine. The question, therefore, is Russia saying, okay, you want to hurt me, I'll hurt you more because your economies are crumbling and you are reliant, and I want to make sure that your people suffer. So as far as Ukraine is concerned, they've taken out the infrastructure. As far as the Europeans are concerned, they're making them punish by reducing the supply and increasing the prices, Sriji.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, please like this video. And I'm going to do a couple of reveals at the very end of this program about Chanda Kochhar's arrest, as well as a quid pro quo that has been worked out between Mr. Prannoy Roy and this government. And I'm going to tell you that I'm going to say this thing with the assumption that I hope I am wrong, but do listen in, because it's a very important reveal. So let's go on to America, sir. The United States has, I'm just going to read this thing. It has, passed a huge financing bill. They are saying that they are going to do a multi-billion-dollar funding of Ukraine. This 1.7 trillion spending deal. Now, first Senate passed it, and then the House has also passed it. Now, this is coming at the fag end of this House and this Senate. Now, when both these places reset in January 2023, is there any way that some of these things can be clawed back, Sridharji? Because this is egregious. 1.7 trillion is a lot of money. That's going to be on your shoulders and my shoulders and our future generations, sir.
No, it will be signed into a law, which is the reason why the Senate and House passed it. And they sent it, so the House passed it on the wee hours of Friday. So this is going to be baked into law. So that means it is done, and the spending gives the government the opportunity to prevent the shutdown and expand the debt limit and put the money to work. What is egregious about this is that they have all kinds of programs, including climate, environment, border, then support for many countries outside of United States in terms of their border issues funding. And then they added this Title 42 and some money for compassionate support for people coming and crossing the border. The only thing that escaped the slash was Title 42. They said, in the spending bill, how can you have Title 42 repeal? And I think we covered this. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts has effectively said, no, the title, it has to be reviewed. So we are not repealing, and the Title 42 law says. And apparently, as we got into the show, the truth that is coming out is there's more than 243,000 people have lined up across the border in anticipation that the Title 42 will be repealed and all these people can cut in. Not only that, there are newspaper advertisements happening on the other side of the border, which is effectively to say, now the doors are open, it's a free passage, you can move. Even the Title 42 is likely to be repealed. So come across and you can cross the border. So this is the level of outlandishness that is prevalent and put into this package. Now, coming back to this 1.77 trillion, I mean, Ukraine, I think we will do a separate show, a 10-minute show on the breakup. of this 1.7. So you all will know what it is and the details. $45 billion, something close to that number. I may be a little bit wrong. $45 to $50 billion in the next 12 months is allocated for Ukraine. So Mr. Zelensky is very bold and very brave to say unending supply of money coming from United States. I can go on fighting this meaningless war. And guess what? United States citizens will be funding us.
I'm speechless, sir. That's all I can say. Now, any doubt about what awaits the US after the end of Title 42? You have covered that. Now, in this 1.7 trillion, about 858 billion is defense bill that includes funding for Taiwan, Ukraine, and others. So you touched upon 45 billion, I think. What about the remaining, sir? Okay, so let us say the lion's share goes to the Defense Department. What about the remaining stuff, sir? How much is the earmark for Taiwan? Do you have any idea, or are we going to do that as a program?
We will do it it is a headline, because now we will get the details. It was not, it just got passed, so we'll do the details. But what's important is we go back 2021 and even the 2022 budget. This is the earmarks for 2022-23. Go back. Actually they wanted to cut the defense budget, 770. The Democrats wanted to cut the defense budget. Now they have increased the defense budget. To my memory, it is now going from around 770 billion to about 852 billion. So it's a significant amount of money, which means United States is ready to fight or send money to nations such as Ukraine is the number one and Taiwan is number two. When you actually think it should be the reverse, Taiwan and South China Sea is of strategic importance to the world. But as is often the case, Biden is fighting Cold War still, rather than fighting the true strategic issues that is confronting the world.
Now, they can announce Ukraine as the 51st state of the United States and appoint Zelensky as the governor of the free 51st state of America in Ukraine. And then, let them also come and start shouting, we need more money. At least we can go there and vacation. We will build some power plants. We will have some other stuff going on. This has become a joke, sir. It might be cheaper for America just to say, okay, you want to join us, come join us. You become the 51st state. That way we have a footprint in Europe.
We have many such friendly states, which you call, we now moved into borderless America, sir. Borderless America. On that note, by the way, I don't know, we can claim victory. We certainly can claim victory. Stanford has issued a rebuttal, which is effectively saying, no, we never said that. The word America is accepted. And, it's some private group that has stated, so I'll continue to say America, Shriji. So the story is that, yes, we are borderless. America is borderless. We can add any nation that it chooses. We'll probably soon have African nations if your good friend Ilhan Omar Hasser say, even we'll add Somalia to be a part of our United States, Shriji.
You know what? Ilhan Omar has a mini me now. And I'm going to have a separate monologue on that about the benefits of having two Ilhan Omars in the Congress. Anyway, same, very anti-Semitic, very extreme ideology, almost like a mini me. This is why I'm joking, of course. Let's take a look at ASEAN. Is ASEAN heading for a split? And in their approach towards Myanmar, a lot of things are happening. Sridharji, perhaps you can explain what is going on.
There's a summit that was held presided over by Thailand, basically to have a rapprochement and support of the Myanmar, to support Myanmar government in some way. The Myanmar government nominated foreign minister was at the meet. Only 5 nations participated from ASEAN. The 5 nations are Thailand, Myanmar, and the border states of Myanmar, namely Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. What that just tells you is this: the old erstwhile communist states, if you recall, Vietnam as well was once upon a time a communist state. They still they have their own kind of perspectives, and facilitated by Thailand. And why Thailand? Because if you go back, what's the other common link? The Mekong River, flows through and has a consequence. So these nations have said that we have to be sympathetic to Myanmar, and we can't afford these things to carry on. And they held this meeting. Two nations have spearheaded the what you call as the compromise with Myanmar. One is Indonesia, and the other is Thailand. Unfortunately or fortunately, Indonesia said, no, we're not going to be part of this. So Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, the other 5 of the ASEAN 10, did not participate, and they were not supportive. So has China successfully and Russia successfully put a wedge through the ASEAN? It seems, based on this dialogue that is happening, appears to be the case. Sriji, this is not good news.
Absolutely, sir. And we're also seeing that many other developments in South China Sea are happening. For instance, Indonesia and Vietnam have concluded a long running talks to announce separate economic export zones, EEZs, and exclusive economic zones. This is a resolution of many of the disputes that existed in that South China region, Spratly Islands, if you will. But this is a good development, in my opinion, because at least these people say we mutually agree that this is where it is, so that everybody can start looking at China and saying, look, you don't have any presence here. Of course, they have built some artificial islands, and Mr. Obama sent blank B-52 bombers to patrol over the area. What a joke. Sir, please take it away. I'm not a Republican, by the way. I'm just saying the facts.
Well, I think the most important development here is that it also shows what you call as the diplomacy that is being pursued and leadership being shown by Indonesia. This is called as the 9-dash line, which runs from that great necklace. We haven't shown this diagram. We'll re-show this diagram. We want to do one show on what is South China Sea, and really whether China has a stake in South China Sea or whether it is kind of arm wrestling its way. We will do a show. We promised. We haven't done it. We'll do it with some research. Now here what happens is called as the exclusive economic zones. So there's a number of multilateral and bilateral disputes. So here is as Sriji pointed out, Spratlys and spreading down further south, overlapping into Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and so on. This border, artificial border or maritime border between Philippines and Indonesia, gives each of the countries and the fishermen access to the marine area where they can respectively conduct their activities without intruding and without having armed intervention taking place. So it's positive news between the two nations. And I think Indonesia, I believe the other 5, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Singapore. I don't know why Vietnam. Vietnam generally tends to be supportive of the other, but probably the border issue is what created. But this diplomacy coming on the back of the new Marcos, the Marcos Jr. becoming the president, is a positive development for the region.
Sridharji, United States has thanked the country of Turkey for the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Can you kind of walk us through what exactly is this initiative, sir?
This initiative, if you recall, is effectively that the Black Sea oversight as a historical arrangement rests with Turkey. This is a deal that was bartered by United Nations, Ukraine, Russia, and Turkey. Effectively, they will be monitoring the ships, and Turkey will say, okay, this ship has been inspected. It doesn't have any ulterior stuff. The grains can move. Both the Russian grains as well as the Ukrainian grains can pass through, with Turkey providing the oversight and certification so that there is seamless flow of agro products to the world, addressing the supply chain issue that has kind of gripped in the middle of the war. So I think what Antony Blinken is saying is that we endorse and we support, and thank you so much, Turkey, for being a leader for making this happen. This is the summary of the issue that is. But we covered this again in going back where Russia walked out. If you recall, Russia said it no more agreement, and we are off this grain issue in Black Sea.
And also, there is more news about Turkey. Turkish and Kurdish tensions are spilling into Europe, especially in Paris. Around the Kurdish Cultural Center, there were skirmishes, and looks like 3 people have died, Sridharji?
Yes, apparently they released one of the Turkish prisoners who historically has a prior incident of confrontation with the Kurdish, what you call the refugees who are settled. And this is proximus to that Kurdish center, cultural center, where he seems to have shot and killed 3 people. Obviously, it has sparked off the violent protests between. So what's the headline? The headline is, any problem in any part of West Asia, it will reverberate in the streets of Europe, reverberate in the streets of Europe, because all of them are sitting and still carrying their fight into Europe, having come as settlers, refugees, or immigrants.
Another interesting story. Finland has asked Russia to safeguard members of its embassy in Moscow after incidents of violence. Sir, violence instigated by whom, sir?
Unknown people. It could be Wagner Group. It could be anybody, because there's only so many stories we can cover. There's another major story that is going around is the Wagner Group is the private army that works under the Russian kind of czarship or Russian government. They say that they are being armed to teeth by North Koreans and Iranians and others and so on, and they're fighting the surrogate battle in Ukraine. So there is this whole bunch of people apparently threw sledgehammers and other stuff into the Finnish embassy, potentially creating a situation of harming the members. Why? Because there are several ways by which you can tell Finland and Sweden, hey, don't play around and don't join NATO. And this is one way of exerting pressure. So Finland has basically stated to Russia, hey, you are supposed to provide diplomatic immunity we have diplomatic immunity. You are supposed to do protection by international protocols.
And now let's take a look at India news. IMF reaffirms India's GDP projections of 6.8% for fiscal year 23 and 6.1% for fiscal year 24. Sridharji, this is right up your alley. You've been always championing the fact that championing for India to become a $5 trillion economy. Essentially what that means is that the GDP hits $5 trillion economy, $5 trillion. India is around 3.1 to 2.7, sir. 3.1 if you take current GDP, and if you take constant, it is 2.77 trillion. This is 2021 World Bank numbers. So at 6.8%, where do you think that 5 trillion mark? You can do, you're good at math, sir. You can tell me what your projections are for becoming a $5 trillion economy, even if it is current prices. Let's forget about constant prices.
I think that the FY 2022-23 projection is around $3.4 trillion. The discounting is around $3.4 trillion. My prediction is that around, I think 26-27 is when it is likely to be, unless there is a COVID type of situation, unless there are extraneous circumstances, war and pandemics type of situations. India has got its fundamentals, it has got its FDIs, and it has got domestic infrastructure spend, as well as expansion of industries happening. So it's not going to be 2025. It will be somewhere around 26, 27 or 27, 28 by the time India hits the 5 trillion mark. Maybe one of the days we will have a show, which is to say, if you look at what the top 10, to be a $5 trillion economy, at least 3 states have to be in the $500 billion to $1 trillion number, because otherwise many of the smaller states are below $100 billion in terms of their GDP. So therefore, Who are those states? Is it Maharashtra? Is it going to be Maharashtra, Tamil
I have the
Nadu?
story on that. I have the story on that, sir. The number one is Maharashtra today. The number two is Tamil Nadu. Number three
Yeah.
is Karnataka. The number four is Gujarat. Number five is Uttar Pradesh. I think stand today, but Karnataka is poised to cross Tamil Nadu to become number two. But they think that for each of these states to individually become $1 trillion economies, the first one, which is Maharashtra, it will be 2031 at the earliest. That's the projections. These are numbers that have been on the web yesterday and day before yesterday. So these are things that you can get from viewers, can get from other places. The point here is, if 5 states become 1 trillion each, right there you've got 5 trillion. And everything else is basically going to be gravy, and it's a trickle down effect. It will spread to the other states also, and I think there's goodness everywhere around. Sridharji, you want to add something to that, sir, before I go to the next topic?
No, I think that we had when we showed the 2022, 2023, 2024 GDP numbers as a brief part of the market story, we had indicated that India will be in that 6 to 6.5 trajectory in 2023, calendar year 2023 and calendar year 2024. India doesn't calculate by calendar year; it calculates the GDP by its financial year.
Fiscal year.
Yeah. So therefore, India seems to be based on those numbers. If you ask people like Dr. Arvind Pangaria, they project somewhere between India can hit between 7 to 8%. 6 to 7% is still a modest number in their estimate.
Thank you, sir. And an intranasal COVID-10 vaccine developed by Bharat Biotech is going to be available for Indian public as India prepares for a possible COVID escalation. First thing that strikes at me, Sridharji, is the cost of administering the vaccine. It is dirt cheap compared to what you have to do today, isn't it?
It is. I think India has excelled in, by historic reasons, it has excelled in production or manufacturing, distribution, research. It has demonstrated that consistently, even in phase 1, phase 2 of the COVID pandemic that gripped India. So I think that this, they call this nasal dose. I mean, many people who live in India must be familiar with this. They call it as the booster dose. The number one, dose 1 and dose 2, they feel is more than enough. If you ask some of the local doctors, they will tell you dose 1 was the normal dose and dose 2 was the booster dose. And this is the third dose that in case people want to take it, they can take it. It's a very simple administration, self-administration process. It's nasal spray, so people can protect themselves. So I think India has got a pretty good approach in dealing with the COVID situation and similar to other situations. Only in United States, we have to have the pricks, and we have already taken 4, and we'll be now taking the 5th one, Sriji.
Yes, indeed. And let's take a look at what is happening in Indian Armed Forces. They are going to get new equipment and weapons close to 84,000 crores as 24 acquisition proposals have been cleared. Sridharji, this is not something that's going to end today. It's a long story. India still has to do a lot of acquisition. Plus, it can also grow internally. In terms of some categories, India has achieved 85% indigenization. Even in their submarines, they are close to 70%. The next submarine that they're going to have, it's going to be 85%. These are nuclear submarines I'm talking about. So India is trying hard to also be self-reliant on these things, isn't it?
Well, I think that defense was one of the top areas of focus of the Modi administration in terms of what you call the Make in India program.
Yes.
And what you call the Make in India program, the PLI programs, which is production linked incentives, as well as capital incentive programs, was directed. So many nations such as France, United States, Sweden, Israel, UK have all defense manufacturers have embraced this, including Russia. And so therefore, I think that this is to make the point whether India is well prepared to both has capacity to have enough machinery besides men on ground to evade potential threats that is lurking. Most notably, China is at the front and center of this issue. The fact that we continue to get these messages about expanded army footprint and capabilities, it only kind of must reassure the Indians that India is no longer sitting silent. It continues to move the needle even on the infrastructure side.
Yes, indeed. And now let's take a quick question from Tarun Balaji. Srijati, this is for you. What do you think about Iran's offering of China-style strategic deal with India with discounted oil?
I think India will accept any proposal that benefits Indian balance sheet. One of the great things about Modi is Modi is a businessman. So he says he will cut a deal with anybody as long as they are not violating rules and norms. And he has got two capable people to debate this with the world. Don't forget that Iranian oil is flowing into many parts of Western European nations as well as other places as well. It's not just only India which will be the beneficiary. We don't want to talk about all the illegal shipments that take place out of Iran. So I think India will cut a deal, and if the deal is beneficial to them.
Thank you, sir. And now I'm going to touch upon the two things that I promised. One is about Chanda Kochhar's imprisonment in getting jailed, and the other one is about NDTV fraud's possible quid pro quo. I'll come to that a little bit later. Let's talk about Chanda Kochhar. Sridharji, you can ask questions, sir. You are the host. I am the guest here. You are playing guest hosting for this part. So ask me, why is this important?
Firstly, she was what you call as the so-called front center and the back page of the revival or the resurgence of the banking industry in India. So it seems like in India you have this, fame to shame kind of a situation. One day you are famous, next day you are down the dungeons. So what is the situation with this Chanda Kochhar? How and what has happened to her kind of story, and why she has kind of fallen way off the cliff, Sriji?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask all our viewers a question. You're having a nice dream, then you are woken up and somebody says, Videocon. What do you answer? I would answer it as washing machine. So was Videocon making washing machines, TV, refrigerators? No. What they were doing is they were putting their sticker, their logo. These are all semi-knocked down. They would bring it in and they would essentially have their colors, their logo, and market it under Videocon. And they were fairly successful at that. There was a time when India was still opening up and you could do whatever you want. Imagine our surprise that Videocon gets a 40,000 crore loan from a consortium of banks. To do what? To do oil excavation off the coast of Mozambique. This is what they tried to do. This was the loan amount. In this 40,000 crores, only 3,600 crores is the ICICI segment. And this ICICI segment, the reason Chanda Kochhar is caught and the others still roam free, I'm hoping that someday Modi ji will catch the remaining people also. The reason that she got caught was because the kickback for this loan from Videocon came into her husband's company. So the loop was closed very quickly. Okay, so this is the reason why she and her husband are in jail today. I don't know if the others who got their kickbacks did it in a more sophisticated manner or not. Clearly, many people have clammed up once Chanda Kochhar got caught. But that's only 10% of the 40,000 crore loan. What happened to the remaining things? So the Videocon, again, is nowhere today. Do you see products of Videocon in the market? I think not. If it's not in Amazon, if it is not in Flipkart, then it is not there. I don't go to the stores to see if there is any Videocon, but I don't think it is there, because the reason it is not there was because it was never a manufacturing company to start with. Anyway, so this is the crux of the problem. She has got caught with her hand in the cookie jar, and that's why she's facing jail term. And again, in India, you never know. Tomorrow she could again resurrect herself and say that, oh, everything is cleared up, you are all free to go, and so on and so forth. Surprises have happened, because I am telling you, in the case of NDTV frauds, I am indeed seeing a surprise. What is the surprise, you may ask? Well, 27.5% of the Roy stake has been sold to Adani, and I think they have gotten close to 700 crores or something like that. If rumors are to be believed, all their CBI, money laundering, tax evasion, stock manipulation, all those sins are being washed. And I'm also told that there is a quid pro quo that the Modi government is getting in exchange for this. By the way, this is very common in the United States. You call it as plea bargain. Or you also become an approver, and for a lesser sentence, you do this. There's something similar to that is happening. And Mr. Roy is going to go Pannu Bhai Motor Chali pump, pump, pump. He's going to have 700 crores. He's going to fly, into the sunset and enjoy his remaining life in peace in South Africa. I hope, and not start giving statements like the one that he did in press club saying that he has not taken a single rupee of black money. That's been proven beyond doubt. But this is India. Everybody has 9 lives, and very, very lucky for him, he gets to escape. And not only does he escape, he also helps Mr. Chidambaram evade all the problems, because if the case collapses, Chidambaram brought in a lot of money through NDTV. Aircel money, Aircel Max's kickback, GE kickback. I can go on, sir. All this is proven and written in 2 volumes of NDTV frauds. The whistleblower stands fired. The guy is not even going to get his pension. He's got false fake cases hoisted on him, all thanks to Mr. Chidambaram. So anyway, so this is how India is operating. We have a senior, sincere, honest man at the top, but I don't know how many things he can do in a day. All I can tell through this medium is, this is a big travesty of justice if Mr. Pranay Roy walks with his hubris, his arrogance, and the guy just gets to walk with 700 crores in his pocket. It is just unthinkable. Thank you so much, viewers, and please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'm not ranting. I'm just telling you the fact. This is what I'm hearing coming down the pipeline. Like I said, I hope I'm proved wrong. Thanks once again, Sridharji. We'll be back next week with our next segment. And please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Sriji, before you close, I had one question. You should have January 2nd or January 3rd. I am told that this is another favorite topic of yours. I don't know whether you have an answer or we'll wait and cover this in the next episode. Apparently, the Supreme Court is going to provide verdict on the demonetization. I don't know what. This is one of your other favorite subjects. I don't know, after so many years, what is it that Mr. Chidambaram is trying to accomplish that January 3 is the demonetization? So I don't know what, I've not heard, but I heard that, when I said that demonetization, Supreme Court pronouncing the verdict, oh my God. I hand it over to you, and then I have no further questions and to see whether you have any reaction before we close.
Sridharji, I knew you would ask this question. Watch my backdrop. That is my book, Who Painted My Money White? See, I didn't change it now. I had it from the beginning. I had a feeling you might ask me this question. Anyway, what was done in the best interest of the country. And I wholly support the Modi government in doing what they did. It is true that 26% of the money that is now in RBI is basically fake currency, and they can't admit to that. This is like, Nilakantha. It is stuck here. They can't swallow it. They can't spit it out, because it matters about trust of the monetary system in the country, that when somebody gives us a 500 rupee note in exchange for goods or services, that it is a legal tender that is backed by the government. How is the government tackling it long term? I believe, and I'm not sure this is true or not, I believe the government is completely dialing down 2,000 rupee note without saying that it is going to be phased out. It will be closed. If RBI doesn't print, and after a 3-month window, when they know that has completely gone into the system, they can say, by the way, from tomorrow, no more 2,000 rupee legal tender. So that just goes off. And also, they may also stop 1,000 rupee note as well as 500 rupee note, bring the biggest value as 200 rupees, because at 200 rupees, bribe giving is hard as rupees. Very, very hard. Think about it. 1 lakh in 200 rupee notes is a big, big box. And at 1 crore, forget about it. You'll need a train to cart it. So that's where it needs to get into. Also, India is getting into digital rupee. I'm told, again, I checked and double checked. I'm told that the digital rupee transactions are on a blockchain. So if center gives 5,000 crores on the digital rupee loan to say Tamil Nadu, they have to account for every naya paisa of that, because it can close loop it. So I want all the DMK sympathizers and ministers and their honchos and everybody to listen to this carefully. It's you are not, your days of taking money and pocketing are numbered. Not going to be long before none of that is going to happen. Already Modi ji has cleaned up a lot of the GST back collection kickback that used to happen. All that is cleaned up. See, the thing is, India, we are cleverer by half, Sridhar ji. We hate to give taxes to our government. We will spend more to not pay taxes, but we will say, I didn't pay any tax. So that is our mindset. But all these things are going to get fixed, but it takes time. Thank you very much, sir. I hope I answered your question.
Indeed, I think you have. So it's very interesting. I think if I hear the Indian kind of a general dispensation of the justice system, it has two things. One is center, then one is left, and one is kind of tends to be right. Very few right, but more center, and a lot of it is also equally left. They're going to wrap the government and said that they should be, RBI should have done this, and the government should not have interfered. And by the way, to next time you do, if this is my punt, next time you do it, you please wake up the Supreme Court justices, get our consent before you do demonetize anything. I think that's the type of verdict that I expect to see. Anything and everything you need to call us, because it's part of the Constitution. The government will say, no, it's not the part of the Constitution. Sorry, I hand it over to you, Sriji.
Sir, when the demonetization was announced in the cabinet, two things happened, sir. One, all the cell phones of all the ministers were taken out. They were left outside, and nobody was going to be using their phones inside the room. Number two, the finance minister did not know. That is how secretly it was done. You think if they go and tell the Supreme Court, you might as well announce it on the newspaper, sir. It's the same thing.
Well, Supreme Court thinks it's the law in India, Riji. It is the all-conquering, all-abiding, universal. There's a very famous Attorney General of eventually caught, and for some other mischief of state of Manhattan. He basically said, if there is a gap in jurisdiction between the state and the federal, then the state will take the rights and own the rights of enforcement in terms of the issues. So Supreme Court will, my view is, based on what I'm hearing, not what I see, hear some kind of snippets, is that it seems to want to know everything that the government does. Or it feels, I'm told, even the election issue, it says it should be part of the process of selecting the CEC and etc. etc. Now, when this case was taken up, it's just quite amazing that how can an institution which is around the financial matters, which is effectively the jurisprudence of either the RBI or the finance ministry, how can an arbitration system around Constitution step into the shoes? Imagine enforcement of actions, SEC actions, and enforcement of Chicago Board of Trade or the futures trade actions, where the Supreme Court justices in United States stepping in rather than Southern District Court of Manhattan. It's outlandish, and this is an area where I think India must address to delineate all financial matters to be outside the purview of and leave it to the central bank and leave it to the finance ministry to deal with it. That's just my that's the best in case practices which is followed around the world, but India doesn't seem to think that's the case, Sriji.
Yes, indeed. And this has been a long-running battle between the court and the judiciary and the executive. And it started in 1969 when the Supreme Court ruled that nationalization of banks was against the law. And Indira Gandhi passed a law, changed the law to make that thing possible. And essentially, that's where this powwow that has started has been happening. Not only that, during emergency, she sidestepped 3 senior judges to appoint her hand-picked man called A.N. Ray, and that led to a lot of grief. So you see, these are all not one-day things, sir. It's a long, slow-moving train that has led to this point, and it'll take some time. There are very good, well-meaning judges. I'm not going to comment on individual judges, but the system needs some relook. But again, as I said, sometimes, this is good for the democracy. However, it needs to converge. That's all I think both Sridharji and I want. We want this thing to converge. We have only so many hours in a day to tell what we think are some of the weak chinks in India's system. And if somebody wants to fix them, we are always ready to help in whatever way we can. Thanks once again, Sridharji. I'm sorry for a long talk today at the end about analysis and stuff like that, but I think this had to be said. Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend.